Okay, so today we are going to read Stories of the Saints
by Carrie Wallace.
And today we are going to read...
And illustrated by Nick Thornborough. Today we are going to read...
I don't really know how to pronounce it.
Genevieve.
Genevieve.
And when did she live?
419 to 512. Location, France. Emblem, candle, shepherd's crook, bread, devil outside. What does that mean?
I'm not sure.
Patrons of Paris. Well, she lives in France.
Mm-hmm.
Feast day, January 3rd. Yeah, but we haven't really read about that part.
When Genevieve was only 7 years old, who else do we know who's 7? You're 7? So this happened when she was your age?
Yeah.
What happened? The great Bishop Germanus paid a visit to the little town of Nanterre, where she was a shepherdess. What is a shepherdess?
I don't really know.
What do you think a shepherdess would be?
A shepherd?
What's a shepherd?
Someone
that herds sheep.
Yeah. So...
Someone who takes care of sheep. So she was 7 years old and she took care of sheep. Okay. Practically the whole town lined the streets to see him, the bishop. But Germanus pointed straight into the crowd at Genevieve. God has great things in store for you, he told her. Then he asked her a question. What do you want? Do you think you could answer that question if someone big and important asked you in the middle of a crowd? What do you want?
Food?
Do you know what Genevieve told him?
No.
I want to live for God. So Germanus plucked her out of the crowd and took her with him to the church in her town where she vowed to give her life to God. When Genevieve was 15, her parents died, and she went to Paris and became a nun.
What's a nun?
A nun is like a monk. A nun is a woman. That's the word we use for women who devote themselves to a community of women, and sometimes women and men, who just live in ministry, praying and doing work devoted to God. That's my definition. I don't know if it's an official definition. In her prayers, Genevieve often saw saints and angels. But when she told other people what she'd seen, they thought she was inventing stories. Some of them got so angry that they tried to drown her in a lake. But Germanus, who had blessed Genevieve as a girl, never stopped believing in her, and he put her in charge of all the other nuns in the city. One day, terrifying news swept through Paris.
What was it?
Attila the Hun, one of the greatest warlords the world had ever seen, was marching on the city with his ferocious army. Do you know, we've seen Attila the Hun in another movie.
Starts with an M?
Do you know?
Yeah.
What is it?
Mulan.
In Mulan. The same warlord that shows up in Mulan shows up in Paris. He was marching on Paris with his ferocious army. All over the city, people packed up their bags to flee, but Genevieve wasn't afraid. Don't run, she told them. Pray. If we ask God's help, He'll protect us. So the people of Paris stayed in their homes. They fasted and prayed. And instead of attacking Paris, Attila changed his mind and marched away. A few years later, King Childeric the Gael surrounded Paris with his armies. Inside the city, the people were starving because everyone was afraid to cross Childeric's lines to get food, except for Genevieve. She slipped through Childeric's defenses and sailed for Troyes. That may not be the French pronunciation, but I'm going to call it Troyes, where she ordered boats filled with grain. The boats she brought back were too big to hide from Childeric, so when she returned to Paris, she went straight to him. "My people are starving," she told him. "Please let me feed them." Childeric was so impressed with her bravery that he opened his battle lines to let her pass. So Genevieve decided to ask him for something else. Childeric had captured some citizens of Paris during the siege and was holding them prisoner. "Please," Genevieve pleaded, "set them free." So Childeric set his captives free. And he treated all the people of Paris more kindly because of his affection for Genevieve.
The end.
The end.
Are you going to do Bridget of Ireland?
We could do Bridget of Ireland in a different video.
Okay. Bye-bye.